At 27 years old, I found myself at the peak of a debilitating health crisis with anxiety, depression, and chronic fatigue. And it definitely wasn't a short journey into that for me either. It was beyond 10 years of experiencing those things. To give you some insight into what that looked like for me, I was having suicidal thoughts, I was blacking out from panic attacks, and anxiety formed a part of every single day for me. I was so fatigued that I couldn't work, I couldn't care for myself, and I was completely housebound. And at the time where I began to be able to leave the house, I required a wheelchair to do so. At this point, it became incredibly obvious to me that I could no longer ignore these messages, that my body had gotten to a point of screaming at me. It was asking me to pay attention. And prior to this, I'd looked for every magic pill or quick fix, but like I said, it became obvious that that strategy just wasn't going to cut it anymore. And so my incredibly rewarding and insanely challenging journey towards better began. Through this process, one of the loudest lessons that I learned was that just because experiences of prolonged disharmony are common in day-to-day life now, we see it often, that does not mean that these prolonged experiences of disharmony, so anxiety, depression, sadness, fear, panic, worry, it does not mean they're normal. And this is something I've become incredibly passionate about. When something shows up in our environments frequently, we're seeing a lot of it, hearing a lot of it, we might even be feeling a lot of it. It's so easy when it's common like that, when it's frequently in front of us, it's so easy to equate that to also being normal. But this is just actually not true. And from this personal experience of my own, I just wholeheartedly believe that it is so important for every individual to know that the normal expression for a human being is to be happy and connected to a life that they love, providing that's what they want. Yes, it is 100% normal to also have interruptions to that happiness and connectedness. I experience that. I don't know anybody who doesn't. What I'm talking about is prolonged interruptions that aren't desired. They're very common. We see them a lot now in our lifestyle, but I would argue they are absolutely not normal. And what begins to happen when we give ourselves permission to know that just because it's common doesn't mean it's normal, is that we empower ourselves with this choice of, okay, well, what do I want my normal to look like then? All of a sudden I have this opportunity to create my own normal. Because just because something's common doesn't mean it has to stay that way, and it doesn't mean that it's how it's meant to be. Then what happens is the real question appears, which is this: do I want my reality to be of a life of low quality and struggle? Or do I want my reality to be of a life of happiness, connectedness, and peacefulness? And by no means whatsoever here am I saying that the latter is easy. I'm not saying that a life of happiness, connectedness, and peacefulness is easy. What I'm saying is it's possible. And every single day when we wake up, we're choosing the reality we live. We're either choosing to continue how we have been living, or we're choosing to create a new beginning, create a new normal for ourselves. And every single one of us has the power to do that. I would suggest neither of these opportunities or neither of these options are easy. It's not easy to live a life of low quality and struggle. And it's not easy to live a life of happiness, connectedness, and peacefulness. But one of those is incredibly worthwhile. And what that means is when you're sitting in a space of something feeling hard or challenging, there's really, really good reward at the end of that. And this is just exactly why I'm so passionate about teaching people and empowering people to connect to themselves, to become their deepest desires, and to self-express in a life that you do love.